Welcome, welcome. Happy holidays, everyone. Chef Will Wagner here. Just Thursday afternoon, keeping it real. It's a beautiful day here in Scottsdale and 60 degrees and beautiful blue skies. So, how's everybody doing today? Week before Christmas, a couple of days, and hope everybody's doing well. Remember to take care of yourself, check in with your family members, your friends, your loved ones that you don't normally do, just to make sure everybody's doing good. It's a crucial time of year to a lot of stress, a lot of tension. So just check in with your loved ones. Make sure everybody knows that you got them and that they're heard. So I want to, just give a shout out to everybody, all my friends and family, saying happy holidays, and hope to see you all soon. And my next guest coming up here in a few minutes, his name is Ben Hinton. Excuse me. Sorry. He's one of the great ones. Got a really inspiring story, and I hope you enjoy it. And here he comes right now. Hey Ben, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Tell us a little about how did you get started on this journey?
Yeah, so my journey I'm on now is I'm an author and a speaker, and my journey started as an author and speaker in 2013. I sustained a traumatic brain injury in 2013. I was home alone at the time, and around 11 a.m., and fell down a flight of stairs. And then my fiance, who's now my wife, she found me about 4 to 5 hours later. And then I was hospitalized for 18 days. And I ran my first half marathon 18 days after my traumatic brain injury. And that's kind of, I guess, in a way, where this story starts. And then years go by. I'll call it the journey of the wilderness for me, where my faith was, reborn. And so in 2023, I have a first debut book called Let Faith Grow, Running Through Adversity. It's a book with 12 chapters. It shares running through adversity. It shares some of the races, some of the insights, some of the wisdom, scriptures from the Bible, and just a lot of things that I've kind of collected over the years as this journey's gone on, and learning how to kind of retake care of myself and relearn how to live and be present. And so that's the title of the book. That's my journey. And it's, of course, there's so much more of this journey as well, the journey of life, but that's kind of what brings us here today, and how we met a little bit online through kind of, health and wellness and getting better and reshifting, realigning our lives so that we can be the healthiest versions of ourselves, for ourselves, but also for others.
So what led to the traumatic brain injury?
Yeah, so that morning, it was January 9th, 2013. So, I was home alone. We don't know, we never will, and that's okay. We don't know if this was an accident, being home alone, and I tripped. We had 2 cats at the time, and so we don't know if I tripped. We don't know if there was some other underlying condition going on. I will say that I was diagnosed when I was 6 weeks old with meningitis and encephalitis. And so this is a virus that can be dormant, and so kind of under layers, undercover, but through stress in life, whether it's physical stress, mental stress in general, it can erupt. So that's happened to me throughout my life at different times. When I was younger, it erupted. When I was in around 7th grade, it erupted then. And that was the first time we actually knew what was going on, because there was a misdiagnosis with a pink eye at the time that it was actually the virus. So we knew I had meningitis, or my mom knew I had meningitis when I was born. But at that time in 1986, the survival rate was low. So once I survived, then it was kind of the miracle side of it is, okay, well, your son, he's probably going to have a delays. He's probably going to have this. He's probably going to have that. And relatively speaking, growing up, I was healthy. But because this virus doesn't have a cure, because this virus is dormant, it has erupted off and on throughout my life, different times. And so I've kind of gotten to know it as, things have occurred. So I don't know. We don't know if the brain injury was an underlying thing, or if I was just, when I was home alone, I happened to have an accident. But that's kind of the whole full circle and the importance of taking care of yourself. Not just because there's already other external factors that we have to deal with in our society, but maybe you have other factors as well, like meningitis and encephalitis or some other underlying condition or something else on top of, what this world has already put on us.
And how did that change your life?
Well, so it changed my life in a lot of ways. I had a lot of setbacks when I was growing up, as a kid, but having those setbacks early on as a child and having childlike faith, I learned from an early age, in a way what a chip on my shoulder was like, being different than my peers and having goals and aspirations and just being a child of wanting to do this, wanting to do that. And so as children, you tend to bounce back with a lot of more resiliency, right? And just lean right back into things. You want to go outside and play. You want to do this sport, that sport, be with your friends. So, but having a traumatic brain injury as a young adult, that's a whole different ballgame. And so from a faith standpoint, for my journey, I try to explain it as having a brain injury as a young adult and having to restart your life over as a brain injury survivor as a young adult. I've had to piece together and restart my life and regrow. And it's been a blessing in hindsight, but it was very difficult because now I'm not a child. I don't have my mom to take care of me. I don't have all of these things in place. And in fact, I was engaged to my fiance, now wife. So, the 6 months prior to our wedding, it was me going through facial therapy and different cognitive therapies and physical therapies. So right away, you're kind of just thrown into the mix, right? And so for me, the faith component of it is growing up and having these ideas of what I want to do, who I want to be, whether it's education or occupation or goals. I thought I was in control of my life. And having a traumatic brain injury as a young adult, I now look at it as I was trying to take God where I wanted to go up until I was an adult before I was getting married, and I was going to have it all under control, and I was going to be ready to take care of my wife and my family. And I didn't think about, having to take care of myself. And then after the brain injury, then it was, okay, God, I'm going to go where you want me to go. But as time went on, that was the best day of my life, right? The worst day became the best day of my life because I've taken care of myself more now than maybe I ever would have. If I didn't have the brain injury, maybe I went on a different path. Maybe I would have stopped taking care of myself and put so many other people first and done so many other things and reached burnout and all of these things and not have some of the mental awareness and things that I have now. So in a way, it's a blessing in disguise.
Do you consider yourself a people pleaser?
So, growing up, I was definitely a people pleaser. And, not only was I a people pleaser, but having that chip on my shoulder at a young age, you have something that you feel like you have to prove yourself. So for me, my idol growing up, not just an idol as far as a figure, as far as a person, as an athlete and different things, but my idol was, basketball. My idol was sports because that was my home away from home. And I quickly grasped to the idea as a young child where all these things are kind of stacked against me. I kind of fell into this, okay, if I'm pursuing athletics and I'm, going to be just like so many of the young boys and girls, they want to be LeBron James, they want to be Caitlin Clark, or they want to be whoever it is they're watching, then that becomes an idol. And so you're chasing that so much. And so I was also a people pleaser because on one end, here's what I want to be. This is what I want to do with my life. And on the other end, my mom was a single mom. And so growing up, I kind of had to figure out, okay, am I going to please and do things that my mom wants me to do as far as, the kind of grades I should get, the kind of things that I should do or not do. And part of that people pleasing was, and I didn't know what I didn't know, neither did my mom, because of the situation. I was sick off and on as a child. And so that kind of hindered me as well from being a people pleaser, right? Because I was already being taken care of by doctors and my mom and this person, that person, right? So I was people pleasing because I didn't want to be taken care of. I didn't want to be looked at differently. So now that I'm older, and I have a faith and I've been on this journey, I look at it as there's a difference between pleasing people and serving people, right? And a faith component of it for me, the bigger picture is there's a verse called Galatians chapter 1, verse 10. And it asks, and it says, for am I pleasing man or serving God? And I've learned the fine line growing up that there is a fine line of pleasing people and serving them. And that's boundaries. But it's also the difference between being nice and being kind, right? And so don't care. You want to care for people, or you want to love people more than you care for their opinions. And if you can just love them and do what's best for them and do your best, then that's going to help you in the long run.
I found myself, I have a servant's heart. I love to serve people, but I had to learn how to serve myself as well. And I was always doing things for other people and putting their needs first, and I was always seeking approval when I really didn't need to. And it took me a long time to figure out that it's okay when you're not going to meet everybody's approval, and you're not going to be able to, not everybody's going to want your help. And, as soon as I learned that, it was like the sky opened up, and, the rain clouds went away. But yeah, it was a tough lesson to learn. And like you said, are you pleasing man or are you pleasing God? Well, I hope I please. I serve both. I think that's a big question for people to ask themselves. Are they serving man, themselves, families, or are they serving, God or whatever they choose to serve? That's a great question, and sometimes I find myself still questioning that today. But I think when you sit down and think about it, that you open up your eyes to see that you're serving everybody, and that plays an important role in your life, especially when you're taking care of other people. It's you could be doing some such simple things as just opening the door for somebody, and it's a simple act to us, but to them it means the world. And I don't think there's enough kindness going around in the world today. So people are naturally just out for themselves. Do you think the majority of people are out for themselves, or do you think there's a general feeling of togetherness and serving each other in the world?
Yeah, I think that, I was at the store today, and, it's the holidays, and it was just a grocery store, not to shop for Christmas, last minute things, this and that. And, I ran into someone who, I have a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old, and my 4-year-old, they have a play going on tomorrow, or a little musical kind of thing. And I saw a grandmother with her 2 grandchildren, and they had a cart full of items. And, I'll see her tomorrow, and her 1 grandson. And she was telling me how she had been out since like 10:30 in the morning with their 2 grandchildren running around. And she had been working early in the morning, and she had been out since 10:30. And this is close to like 3:00 in the afternoon. So the sense that I got in that moment, and the sense that I get in general, is a couple things. I think that most people are in survival mode. And because they're in survival mode, a lot of times we're fishing for compliments, right? We're fishing to please other people because we think that that's going to fill us up. We just don't understand things like that there's power in your presence. When you're talking initially on the episode coming in about checking in on your loved ones and doing things this holiday season the right way and with love, people don't realize the power in their presence. And people don't realize that they don't need to fish for compliments. And that sometimes just by showing up and just by being genuinely you, that there's power in your presence. And I think this holiday season now that people are struggling with that. They're running around and they're trying to get the perfect present and the perfect gift. And they're trying to set the perfect dinner table and the travel plans, all of these things. And so it's almost like they don't know what they don't know. And so it's so hard. I don't want to blame people because I see things differently in my own life now than I did before. But I think it comes down to people it's a scared mindset, and people are living in a panic place right now in a lot of ways. So, and because when you do slow down, you do appreciate things around Christmas and Thanksgiving, or just maybe like on a weekend with your family, and you do every now and again see that glimmer of hope that, oh, there is power in my presence. This person is, I am serving this person, and vice versa. And it's simply by just being together, as opposed to all of these distractions that we think, right, are going to please other people, or that we think are going to fulfill us because we're going to get compliments and so on.
I think, it feels in my heart that this day and age, we lost track of, it's not about what you give as a gift, it's about the gift itself. And I think we get caught up into, if I don't get that new PlayStation or that latest iPhone or that camera that I want, it's just, I'm not going to want it. And it's not going to be, a great Christmas when that's not the purpose around it. You give a gift because it makes the person feel good. And it's the art of giving. I look at every gift that I get as gratitude. I'm thankful for getting it. They thought enough about me to give me a gift. It's something that I would like, because I find myself, like last week, I was like, what do I get? A few people in my life, and I'm rattling my brain, and it's like, why? If they like something, get it. I mean, it's not about the gift. It's about the art of giving. You thought about, the person and how much they mean to you, and you want to make sure that they feel the gratitude and love behind the gift that you're giving them. And I know, as a kid, I was like, thankful for all those Matchbox cars that my parents would buy me, and I love the fact that kids these days, look at Legos and cars and stuff they can build themselves with is tasks, and it builds character when you can sit there and build a house out of Legos, and it opens up your imagination. So it is a hard time of year. I agree with you on that part. I know I struggle a little bit this time of year. There are a few times when I will be very happy when the holiday season is over. But I also enjoy the holidays. It is one of my favorite times of the year, because I love giving, and I love serving people, and I love cooking for people, and I love the smile that the food makes when it comes out, and they're just like sitting there in seventh heaven, because it makes them feel good inside that somebody thought enough to bake a cake or bake a pie or make them dinner. It's the art of giving, and I think we lost a little bit of track on that a long time ago, because the art of giving seems to have left our society. And these are just my opinions. I know it's rough, and I know who cares how much you spend on a gift, but you thought about the person enough to do that, and that's the important part.
Yeah, and I think too, with that art of giving, I have so many people in my life that are incredible at giving gifts. Like my wife is incredible, and I know, like growing up, I used to always go to my friends' families for, house for dinner dinner and Christmas and Thanksgiving, for a lot of holidays. My mom was always working, and that family always amazed me. The family, like my friends' parents and aunts and uncles, they always amazed me on their gift giving. And then it was passed down to their kids, and our friends growing up, as we became young adults, we still were giving some incredible gifts to each other. And I think the other part of it too is that we're just rushed. We're rushed and distracted with the art of giving. We don't get the time, or we don't take the time. It's like, oh, before it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Christmas is X amount of days away, or like they're pushing out new gifts or new seasons all the time. And so we're just not slowing down enough to, appreciate the task of gift giving. We're just always rushing it. And then, it doesn't become perfect or is thought out. And because things are just thrown in our face. So I do think it's kind of that kind of combination of our society, but then also, like you said, there are people that do take the time. There are perfect gifts. We just got to slow down enough to appreciate that part of the process, to take the time and not put off things last minute because we're so busy. So when we slow down to think of others, that's the other part of serving, right? Is when we slow down enough to actually think about them, it's thought out, then that's truly serving them versus, pleasing them, because we're actually taking the time to think of them and then make it a process instead of rushed.
You know, it's funny that we manage to rush around, and then we get to the actual importance of taking care of our families. We rush to put food on the table, and we rush to go grocery shopping, and we don't take the time to, are we putting healthy, nutritious food on our holiday tables?
Mm.
I know personally, because I love to overeat sometimes, and especially during the holidays, because I prepare food that I normally don't. And I remember growing up as mom's making her sweet potato casserole, and it's the only time of year that she makes it, and I'm going to eat as much of it as I possibly can, and not understanding that what she's putting in it is not the most health conscious items. And so how do you look at food this time of year? How does food play a big part of your life?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it made me think of something like a special memory. But when I was growing up, my mom and I, we moved from Denver, Colorado, and we moved to Pittsburgh, where I now live and have lived since I was young, in about third grade. And so my grandma, once we lived near her, grandma's cooking got a hold of me. And so I was always like really thin. I had a runner's body when I was a kid, and I was extremely active. And so when we moved back and I got, into family cooking, like that first year that I was at home in Pittsburgh, it wasn't a big neighborhood. It was only just my mom and I, my grandparents on this property of family property. And so I was with my grandparents all the time. And one of the things that my grandma did was always cook. And I remember when you were talking about that, is she would cook these grand meals. Almost every meal was this grand meal. And talking about pleasing people, well, number one, her cooking was so good. But as a young boy, I got to this point of that, okay, grandma's meals, food is so good, she's cooked. And then, of course, she overserves, and I'm under the kitchen table, and I'm like, ate this loaf of ham and all this food, and I'm stuffed. And then she's got desserts, or she's got this and that. And so then you kind of please her, not knowingly, but it's like, Ben, you want this, or you want that. And at first, like, oh no, and you're so full. But then you go and you get that extra, bit of that cookie or that cake or things that are so good, that are homemade. So I quickly, when I was young, I gained some weight pretty quickly that first summer. And so when I was growing up, I wasn't overweight, but I weighed a little bit more than I probably would have if, we didn't live with family cooking around here and things like that. And so now I look at food as an adult, because I started running and I lost 40 pounds pretty quickly when I first started running. And that wasn't the reason why I was running. Like I had a mental health, the mental health side of things and just finding myself. But when I started losing weight and it just came off, and that's just my body type. And then I realized, oh, I'm a runner, and now I'm like, look like a runner and I feel like a runner. Then my relationship with food started to change. And I looked at it as, I'm going to look at food serving me rather, right, than me serving food. So, because so many times we go into our pantry, or we on the holidays or parties, especially like in my 20s, food, I looked at that I was going to serve food. It's like going out with my friends. Oh, let's go to this restaurant, or let's go to this bar, or let's go to this. And you don't stop and think to yourself, how is this food fueling me? What is this relationship? So as a runner, you have to eat a lot, but it's the timing of when you eat. And so you have to eat a lot of calories, but you have to look at the relationship different. And you have to say, okay, when do I want to eat this type of, sugar or carbs or whatever? And so then when your relationship with food changes, you change, because you start to feel better. You start to sleep better. You start to recover better. And so there have been times when I've been running that, I'll go out to eat and I need to eat a lot of food and I'll eat and I'm skinnier than some of my friends or other people. And they'll just look at me like, how do you eat all this? Where do you put it? And it's like, well, because my relationship with food has changed. And I ask myself questions, right? And then I control the conversation with food, because when I'm feeling better and I want to run better or do certain things in my life, be healthy for my girls, the conversation with food changes. So I now look at it as food serves me now rather than me serving food to fit into, society, I guess.
So how does that play a role in what food you choose to eat?
So I choose the ingredients for sure. I mean, I look at the ingredients more now than I ever have, with supplements, with caffeine, with, different type of chicken and, other meats and things and learning and wondering like, okay, is it, grass fed? Is it, are there probiotics in it or different, GMOs? And so I'm reading these labels and I'm reading how many ingredients are in there. And also, more importantly, more than ever, is I'm looking at the servings, not just for the cost effect of it, but the servings of how much do I need to eat? How much do I want to eat? And that also helps me in the long run because I'm not overeating or undereating. And then I can kind of, meal plan better as well. So that maybe one day I'm eating good and the next day I'm not because I've either overeaten or I haven't looked at the servings enough. So that's the other part of the relationship that changed is looking at what I'm eating, how it's made, the ingredients, and and shopping for those as well. And putting myself as a priority of I don't want to get fast food because it's convenient. I don't want to do certain things because they're convenient. It's all reestablished of the relationship is what do I want and how am I going to benefit for this? Because now that I have daughters, it's also teaching them as far as the ingredients and the preparation of their lunches. And on weekends, we cook together. So that's the other part of the change as well, that I make things a lot more than I ever used to.
So what on an average week when you're really not hustle and bustle, what do you majorly look for? Do you take more protein or do you take more vegetable? What's your average mix of diet?
So my average mix of diet is I try to have a mix of like, a ratio of protein to carbs. And also the biggest thing is the added sugar versus the sugar from fruits and vegetables. That's the biggest thing that I've noticed is the sugar. And the source of sugar is the biggest thing for me. I'll have some things here and there, like cookies and different things that are timed around when I'm running. But a typical week for me, like lately, I've been really focused on bigger breakfasts and making sure those bigger breakfasts have some protein in them, as well as some, oatmeal, some fruits and veggies. And then I'll also focus a lot lately on adding things like spinach. And then the timing of when I eat as well, where I'll try to end my eating around 5 p.m. at night so that it digests enough and that when I'm ready to go to bed, my mind and my body are ready to go to bed and ready to recover. But I generally don't look at calories in terms of, because a lot of people they calorie count. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. But for me as a runner, I don't really look at the calories. I look at whether I'm filled. Some days at the end of the day, I've had like 500 grams of carbs. But I knew my body needed that because maybe that day it was a hard workout. Or maybe the next day is going to be a hard workout. So then there are other days where, I will actually have like 200 grams of carbs. So the biggest thing that I try to watch though is the amount of fat and the types of fats that I get. And that's going to stem a lot from, the processed food and processed sugars.
So how often do you run now?
So right now, I run about 6 days a week. Now last year I was really, really training hard, and heading into November of last year, the day before actually, on November 30th, I got injured. But before December 1st, I had ran 3,000 miles for the year. And that was the most miles I've ran all this whole journey. So I ended up on November 30th, I got hurt and tore my left plantar fascia. So this year, I've kind of had to kind of go back a little bit. I spent a lot of time in PT, and even though it was frustrating, kind of had to really ease myself back into running. But now I'm running about 6 days a week, and mileage wise for running runners out there that kind of look at their mileage and that kind of thing are kind of things with analytics and things. I run about 45 miles right now pretty consistently. And I really try to run in the morning so that way, like as a routine, running in the morning where you can fast heading into a run or maybe eat something little before the run starts. Then after that, really fuel yourself up correctly through the day with the type of breakfast that you eat. So I'm spending about 4 to 5 hours a week right now running, whereas last year at the peak, I was spending about 9 to 11 hours a week running.
So looking back, and then looking forward, what are the biggest takeaways you had from your past and your accident and just how you treated yourself versus now?
So this is for me personally, but also I do like to share this because I do believe that lives are transformed when we share our faith and not push agendas. And so thinking about it from a faith standpoint, I was 26 years old when I had my brain injury. And so my college, I played basketball in college. I was getting into coaching basketball after I graduated college. And I thought that was going to be my path that I was on. And I was starting to slowly kind of go down that road of drifting to being overweight and not watching what I eat. I don't want to say not caring, but getting to the point of like, okay, this is as good as it's going to get kind of thing. And then I was going to have, being married and have kids. So looking back at it, number one, I look and I again say the worst day is my best day. Number two is, if you have a past, whether it's I was injured or you have a past where you had health issues from, your eating, your nutrition, your diet, things like that, don't look at your past or don't do what you're doing now from the perspective of beating yourself up. Right. And for me, looking back, that's kind of what I look at it. I think I spent a lot of time when I didn't know this, or maybe I did, but I was beating myself up rather than pushing myself. And when I say push myself, valuing myself. And I think that's the biggest thing is a lot of people get so burnt out because they're beating themselves up. They're so busy. They're pleasing people and they're stuffing, their faces and other things. So looking back at it, I just look back at it and I just think of the word grace, right? I look back now and I give my past grace so that I can understand myself then, right? Have peace now, and then also be hopeful for the future, right? Knowing that, hey, the past is what it was. I'm going to be accountable for it. I don't want to judge my past. And I do want to enjoy where I'm at now. And if I can do that, then I'm really going to enjoy, what's coming down the road as well.
Do you find yourself teaching your kids the hard lessons you learned?
Sometimes, there are sometimes that as a parent, it's obviously being a parent is really hard. And so one of the things hard about being a parent is that I find myself sometimes projecting versus protecting. And I don't know if this is related to anyone or not, or if it's just me, but I sometimes struggle with being a father of 2 girls and having my mom growing up, an only child, and I didn't have a mom and a dad. I had great examples around me, but I struggle with knowing what I didn't have. So I didn't grow up with a father. Sometimes I'll put a little extra pressure on myself, and I sometimes do tend to think in a moment of, oh my gosh, I'm being way too hard on, my 9-year-old or my 4-year-old. And I have to stop and think to myself, either in the moment or later on, am I projecting fear onto them? Am I projecting onto them, or am I protecting them? So am I being disciplinarian, or am I being a good example of them with, running and just pursuing what I think is serving people? because at the end of the day, I really want to make sure that I live a life that might be full of failures, but I don't want to live a life of one regret. Because if I live a life of regret, at the end of the day, when I'm older, then having that life of regret, it didn't just affect me, it affected those around me, my loved ones. So yeah, maybe that kind of hopefully answers that question. But I'm really trying to just have a lot more awareness now than I ever had before.
So you wrote a book.
Yeah.
So tell us about the book.
Yeah, so the book, Let Faith Grow, is the title. It's Running Through Adversity. And one thing I'll say is I've learned this journey is we all have a story to share. And I think one of the things I've learned in this journey as being an author is that, hey, everyone has problems. And our problems aren't unique. And everyone has a story. And a lot of times we focus so much on our problems that we don't let faith grow. We don't share our stories. And I'm not saying being an author, but share our stories with our loved ones, share our stories with our coworkers, just share our stories and inspire other people, because someone is inspired by the way you showed up. And so the book, Running Through Adversity, there's 12 chapters, and I write about, and I share, and this is why I say lives are transformed, we share our faith. I share myself. I share my vulnerability. I share my lessons, my wins and my losses, and, being truthful of how I felt looking back after having a traumatic brain injury and running a marathon 8 weeks later. And then as time's gone on, how have I grown and what have I learned? And I've learned so much in my training, right? And working on myself. And I've learned a lot of philosophies, and some of those philosophies I've learned in my own experience. A lot of them I've learned from other people that I've met. And I've grown by having a brain injury that I was not labeled, I guess that word, but early on, I had to take some tests for them to see what kind of therapies that I needed. And I took a test, and it, showed that I was on a 3rd grade math and reading level. And so I've shared my story. I've written this book, and I look back at it, and I'm so amazed that I am an author and I'm a speaker because of where I've come from. But I've come from where I was because of people, right? Because people accepted me, because people loved me, because of friendships I had, because of friendships that I have grown simply from sharing my story. And so Running Through Adversity, the tail end of it is that today's adversities are tomorrow's victories. And I hope that in this book that people can see that, because the other thing is your trials will blaze trails for others. Your mess is a message for others. And so by sharing this book, by people reading it, the book is great, but hopefully it's a connection to meet people. Maybe they've experienced something similar, or maybe they're in something similar, and this is just a book of encouragement and planting seeds of encouragement for them. And that's kind of what the book's about, and hopefully what I hope it can do for others.
So how does your faith play a part in the book?
So one of there's so many things to that. And there's so much depth to what does faith, play. My life verse, I have a life verse that a pastor gave me at our church that my wife and I attend. And it was a first verse that I really stuck out to me after my brain injury and the journey really started early on. And the verse is 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. And it said, "For God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but rather a spirit of power, love, and self-control." And when I heard that verse, that's the verse that really planted a seed into my heart and in my life, because having a brain injury, I had so much timidity, right? I was stuck in fear. I thought I was broken. I was lost. I mean, as a young adult, right? And then, can I be a father? Can I be a husband? Can I get a job? Like, what do I do? I felt like I was always seeking validation or seeking from everyone else, because I didn't remember things like when I going to college, and there was so much of things before my accident that took a really long time for me to believe what I was remembering. Whether I'm just remembering this, is it real? When was it? There's all this disconnect. And so the faith part of it is that you are not broken, right? People are not broken. They just need healed. And to me, that's so important because when people feel like they're broken, that can lead to hopelessness. And so if you can encourage someone and sharing and encourage them and remind them and love them and serve them, again, as we talked about serving and pleasing, remind them that you're not broken, you just need healed. Because if you need healed, like you break a bone or you get, a paper cut or whatever, like you're not broken. Like if you have a broken bone, you're not broken. Healing takes time. And so from the faith aspect of that, that's what gives me hope for the future, is knowing that yes, there's struggle. Things are going to be tough, but I'm not broken. And because of that, I don't have to live with the fear of timidity, and I can live with a fear or a spirit of power, love, and self-control. And that's helped me heal or led me to healing, because sometimes I don't know what I don't know, but I know I'm going the right way.
Nice, very nice. Stops and makes you think a little bit.
Yeah.
Stops and makes you think about, your own, each, my faith. And I think, everybody questions their faith at some point, but, yeah. Okay.
And I think I've learned too, and I've had so many questions. But what's great about that is questions is childlike faith, right? Kids ask questions. And I would really, especially adults, I would really say it's okay to question things. And the other thing is, I think there's a difference between, for me as a believer in my faith, I think that's why I want to share faith, not push agendas. I don't really talk about religion. I talk about faith. And so with faith, right, it's curiosity. And my life verse, power, love, and self-control, intimity. When I've looked at that scripture and I've thought about that scripture and reflected on it, I have so many questions in every day in faith, but I always come back to, right, I want to lean with curiosity rather than living with chaos. Right. In my life, I've had chaos in my life, and I've seen what chaos can do. Chaos can trump, or chaos can destroy curiosity. But if we lean into our curiosity, especially as adults, leaning into our curiosity will lead us into power, love, and self-control, right? That's the internal inspiration. But as adults, I think external factors crushes our curiosity, and then that gets dumped onto our children or our, siblings or younger people than us. So I always try to emphasize, don't feel bad about questioning, because that's where curiosity is. And questioning will lead to answers. So ask yourself, if you have faith, ask God, but also ask others. Be okay to reach out and ask others, and don't be afraid that you have problems. Again, your problems aren't unique, but your gifts are. So by asking questions, you're gonna find answers.
So Ben, wrapping up, I like to ask this question because I'm curious to see what my responses would be. What's in your refrigerator right now?
Yeah. So what's in my refrigerator right now? I have angel hair pasta in there. I just had that for dinner. And then our freezer, we have some chicken tenders, and we don't have a whole lot of food right now, as much as we do usually in our freezer. One thing that's always in our house with kids is mac and cheese. But we also have a lot of fruit. And this isn't very popular. I don't know if you can tell me if you like this or not, but my 9-year-old loves dragon fruit. Yes. And so I got some dragon fruit today at the store, because usually dragon fruit's pretty expensive, but it was on sale today. And so I got that. But we have a lot of fruit and vegetables, and we have grapes and almond milk as well. And right now, the biggest thing we just don't have at the moment is like chicken or we have some lunch meat, but we don't have chicken and hamburger meat, which we usually do, because that's very good for lean beef, can really be great for, meatballs or Taco Tuesdays and things like that. And then I do have a lot of energy drinks. I will tell you that, though, as well. That's another thing that's kind of in my fridge a lot.
So Ben, how do people get your book?
So people can get my book. They can order on Amazon directly. Or if they would like a personalized copy, they can reach out to me as well. I have a website, and it's Ben Hinton Speaking, or sorry, it's Let Faith Grow, Ben Hinton Speaking. So Let Faith Grow, the title of the book. And people can also find me. I'm on LinkedIn as my name, Ben Hinton. But Let Faith Grow, that is my Instagram handle as well. I do try to do a lot of encouragement and things on TikTok. But if you go to Instagram especially, people can direct message me on there and connect with me on LinkedIn where you can find my website. But it is available on Amazon directly, just Let Faith Grow, Running Through Adversity. And it's also now been about a month or so that it's also an audiobook as well.
Got it. Okay. Ben, I thank you. It was a great conversation. And
Thank you.
I look forward to having more. And yeah, just thank you for sharing. And yeah, I wish you and your family a happy holidays, and hope everything goes as you wish.
You as well. And yeah, I love the podcast, and I'm so glad to be connected. And I love the more you know, and I just love that impact and helping people learn more, right? And
Yes,
have curiosity to find out ways to improve their lives and the lives around them as well. So I just love what you're going to be doing and the impact you're going to make with this podcast.
Yep. Thank you. And like I said, happy holidays, and hang out back, and we'll chat a little bit.
All right. Happy holidays, everybody.
Well, there you go. The more you know. Now you are a little bit more enlightened today for a Thursday afternoon, and thank you all for joining us. And it was a good episode, and look forward to continuing this. We will not be back till January 2nd. So yeah, taking a little break for the holidays, and I hope every one of you is safe. And remember, check in with your loved ones, check in with your friends, check in with your coworkers. Make sure everybody feels that they're seen and heard. And the holiday season is rough on people, and just make sure that everybody knows that they're loved and they're well taken care of, and that you got their backs. So have a good Thursday afternoon and the rest of the week, and have a great weekend. We'll talk later.